going to be about wood heating in a tiny house and what we're working with right now in the tiny house and why this is so important right now when we're still in August. So I'm going to just, you guys, the tiny house and what we're working with right now in the tiny house and why this is, do that. Why do I always do that? Anyway, so burning stoves and any other kind of wood heat in a tiny house, and why I am so fascinated by the idea of being able to use a rocket mass heater house. So I just got to switch my screen. Okay, so John is going to be in here. Mr. Dirt is in here. So if I miss a question, hopefully he'll text me. But I want to make sure I actually get through the points that I wanted to talk about rather than getting distracted by the chat too much. So if there was something really important, John will let me know. Ask Mr. Dirt, and then he can type it in for you. So first off, this August and in previous Augusts, we've had days that have been in the 50s or in the high 40s. We just get these weird weather swings that come through occasionally, and this summer was no exception. Was it the beginning of this week or the end of last week? I don't remember, but we had days that were in the low 50s and nights that were in the 40s, and it was cold. We had sweaters on and we were still kind of, you know, shivering just a little bit. We have our Elmira wood stove and we absolutely love her. She has propane cooking attachments on the side that will allow us to cook on her as a stovetop without the wood heat, but we don't have the chimney hooked up. The reason is that it's really expensive to put in a wood burning stove. The double wall pipe and everything is very expensive. The box that goes into the ceiling is expensive. And our other concern was that she would just cook us out of here. If we ever tried to actually cook in her, it would kill us. But that maybe even just putting a very small fire in her might be too warm. And so I have her set up as this really pretty centerpiece in the tiny cabin, but very big. And for one thing, we have this I don't know if you call it the subfloor or just the floor in here. But we haven't put wood floor in or tile or anything like that. We just have the plywood on top of the studs as our floor. And she's heavy enough that she's causing just a tiny bit of pitting in the floor already. I think John said she was like 600 pounds. I don't think is she that much? I think it's closer to 400, but I think John said it was about 600 pounds when she's all put together. So she's just a wood stove and she's causing problems for this floor just a little bit. I need to go out and cut some plywood squares to put underneath to kind of spread that weight out even a little bit more. But cold. I don't know if you guys remember seeing over at Fauchomatic that they put a rocket mass heater into their little house. Now their house, I think, is about 150 square feet bigger than our house. I think they're right about at 500 square feet, if I remember correctly, and we're just under 400 square feet. But they used a rocket mass heater, and they used the cob and everything to create the warming bench that they use, and it's beautiful in their home. And it worked very well for them in their extreme weather. I think they're a little bit milder than we are. We're a little bit colder than they are. They get more snow. We get more wind and cold, if that makes sense. And they loved it. We have been to Paul Wheaton's where he has a rocket mass heater that instead of using cob, he built a frame that then has pea gravel in it. And it worked very well. We've been there. Josh from Essential Mountain Homestead and I were there in June. I don't remember, but it snowed. Was it May or June? I don't remember, but it snowed a lot while we were there, and it was really cold. And Paul doesn't have a well-insulated home. He has a manufactured home that is not on a permanent foundation, and he has a rocket mass heater. So the difference between their homes and my home is that mine is a little shed. Wasn't necessarily meant to have one corner of the house having this tremendous amount of weight on it. And at the same time with rocket mass heaters, the core, when that fire is being sucked up that J tube, you get immensely hot temperature. I mean, you can actually like weld with temperatures that are that hot. It's very, very hot. I'm trying to remember what they said that it was. I have the books here. So the expert on rocket mass heaters, they're Ernie and Erica Weisner. Podcasts from them over on Permies.com. And this is their book, The Rocket Mass Heater Builder's Guide, so that you could build it yourself. And the thing about rocket mass heaters is that there's a lot of math involved and there's a lot of precision involved. If you don't build it the right way, it won't draw correctly and it won't work. That's why there's such a book as this. And with the tiny house craze that has been going on in the last years, there's been a lot of attention of, could you put a rocket mass heater in a tiny house? A tiny house maybe even that's meant to move, like one of those tiny houses that you travel across the country in. And so now, and this is why I'm doing the show today, is because I keep meaning to get to the video and then I don't get to the video. So up in Missoula, Montana, they are running a workshop. And let's see if I can make sure I can get all the names of the people that are going to be in it. They're running a workshop. Projects that they're creating are a tiny rocket mass heater batch box. Let's see. And the house that they're putting it into is 7 feet by 11 feet. So it's very, very tiny. If is going to show that it's possible, this have all these workshops going on at the same time. And let me tell you the others. They're really focused on the rocket mass heaters though. So there's the tiny house rocket mass heater batch box, and there's the greenhouse or hugelkultur rocket mass heater that you can put into a greenhouse, or you can put it into a big hugelkultur mound. I never even thought of doing that. I know that having the really big pile of compost or a pile of wood that you can pee on and then put the copper tubing through it so that it will, I've heard of that before, but I've never heard of it putting an actual rocket mass heater system into a hugelkultur. The next thing is a rocket stove brewing so that you can make your own beer, is what it sounds like. How to weld. Because I'm not sure why that was. I know that they had some really interesting cooking apparatuses at the last workshop that were like rocket mass heaters, ovens, and that kind of thing. And I would assume you'd need to know a little bit of welding to be able to create things like that. So it's supposed to be like an innovator. The next one is Masonry 101, a quick course in bricks and mortar for building rocket mass heaters. Because masonry is part of it that you can use to build it, to my understanding. Also understand that if you can use bricks and ceramics, that it actually is lighter than using cob. And then creating a batch box door for rocket mass heater is worthless without a good door. This will be welding and cutting metal to make a good door. And the rocket pottery, we will fire up the rocket kiln to go through the proper process for pottery. Okay, so the classes for that are Friday, October 6th to October, let's see, I think it's the 6th through the 8th, October 6th through the 8th. I think that's what it is. And so they're going to have different classes. I'm not sure if they're going to be at different times. It looks like progressively through the days they're same time, and you kind of choose which class you want to go to see the different parts. Okay, and then there's the Jamboree Part 2 that's October 9th through the 13th, and that one looks like they're dealing a lot with creating that rocket mass oven. There's a ton of classes going on. I do have the link in the description below so that you can go and just check it out yourself, because there's really too much here for me to be able to read. But for those of you who want to be in a tiny space, but you're like, oh my gosh, if I get a wood stove, it's going to bake me out, or is my house going to catch fire, or is the rocket mass heater going to burn through the floor, or is my floor not going to be able to support the weight of a rocket mass heater? This would be the class for you. Again, if you want to just get the book, Erica and Ernie are wizards and I need to put the link to this below because it's pretty neat. A lot of the Cobb cottages that we went to in Oregon had rocket mass heaters in them, and of course they're a milder climate. I think that what Nick and Esther up at Fouch-O-Matic, or I think it's Fouch Family Off Grid, I think is what they're calling their channel now. They have the most convincing one for me, and so does Paul, because they're in very cold climates rather than in climates that don't really or a whole lot of cold. So I'll just tell you really quick who the other teachers are. So we have Erica and Ernie Weisner, Tim Barker, quickly, Peter Vandenberg, who supposedly was like the big wizard as far as mass heater system, the way that it works, Kirk Mobert, Chris McClellan. Is that it? I think that's it. So anyway, they have that all set up over on their site under richsoil.com/rmh.jsp. So again, I have the link below. So go check that out. So got that. I've looked at some of the commercial ones that are supposed to be shippable cores, and I know that Paul Wheaton is not a huge fan of them. He's concerned that the heat will be great enough that you might end up having metal melt and go through your floor and start fires and that kind of thing. So and I have been in his home when the rocket mass heater worked, so I would have to assume that he knows what he's talking about as far as a lighter system, because he uses the pea gravel. So now I will go over and let's make sure I did write everything down first because I wanted to make sure I got it all. Is another reason why people really like the rocket mass heaters is that they do not put off a lot of smoke, and they actually have some people that live in the city that are in apartments that have a rocket, and it allows them to heat with wood without. And if you're somebody who's a prepper, being able to have a wood stove that does not send off a huge smoke signal every time you light it, if you're a prepper and you're kind of into zombie apocalypse type scenarios, then that might be something also that to you. And supposedly you're supposed to use like 1/10 the wood. I know that Paul and Jocelyn said that their stove, we had a really harsh winter this last winter, and they said that they used something like 2/3 of a cord for their home. And we had a 3 zone 4 like we are. I think I got everything. So let me bring up my, and now we can talk. How many minutes did that take? 15 minutes. Let's see, Cowboy0274 said earlier you said you are going to use the double wall pipe to get out the wall. From experience, I almost put down my party shed from a burnt down my party shed from a potbelly stove with double wall pipe. I upgraded to 24-inch triple. Let's see, John asked me something. Hey, there's Alumna. Check him out. He has some phenomenal things going on. Let's see, in live show. Come join us. So yeah, you should go check out Alumna. We did an interview with each other a while ago, but I'm having a hard time editing it because my bandwidth on my side is so poor. But I need to get that video up, us talking about what it's like to homestead and what we would change if we could go back 5 years and do it over again. So Alumna Acres. So go check that out. There's Aardvark. I'm pretty sure whatever you use, the cabin will get very warm for a bit and then disappear. Right now we're just using a little propane heater, and I could run it for about 45 minutes and then I could turn it off for the night. The cabin holds the heat really, really well. The problem is, here's the problem with the tiny house that like is something they say, you know, when we talk to the guy in Texas that does the he goes out and gets garbage, old lumber and nails and things like that, and he builds tiny houses out of them. He says the air exchange is a problem. You have this teeny tiny space. You don't have enough oxygen in it if it's sealed like an envelope. And our house is not sealed like an envelope. We have two little open all the time. And yet when I had that heater on, I got miserable, nasty upstairs, and it was still a little bit chilly downstairs. And I have paint on the floor up in the lofts, and again, it starts to off gas when it gets warm. And so it creates this nice little pocket of nasty toxicity up there, even though it has that open vent all the time. So in a house this tiny, we always have a window open. We have the vents that are open in the top on both sides all the time, and then I always have a window crack down here because otherwise the air gets really stale really, really fast. Hey, Lumna Acres made it. Okay, so there's the channel I was talking about, Lumna Acres. If you want to see how to do it the right way, in fact, right now he is building an outdoor kitchen that just looks epic. New York City, a really hard time saying, New York City, that he has his chickens in, and just a really, really great, go see Lumna Acres, Lumnah. Mr. Dirt said Texas tiny homes. Yes, that was the one in Texas where the guy says you need to build a tiny home with as much natural material as you can, because you do not get the amount of air in a tiny house that you do in a big house. It's not, it doesn't flow through the same way. It all just kind of stagnates, and it's so true. Gene Weber said, so over insulation is dangerous. No, not over insulation, but over sealing. He was talking about how he doesn't like the sprayed in foam systems because they create not breathe. So insulation is great, but if you're going to use something that is really well insulated but also really well sealed, to have some kind of mechanical air exchange. We're not sealed tight. Like I said, 2 open vents all the time. We don't get enough airflow through it. The humble homemaker said, what about a small little potbelly stove? We had a wood stove and it would heat the house so good. Potbelly stove, we got to sell this one first. And she's so pretty. Our Elmira is so pretty, but she was so expensive. We got her for super cheap. We got her for the same price that it would cost us to get a general heating stove in our area that was new and reasonably efficient. So we got her for 1/3 the price that she would be sold for retail, and that included the shielding in the back, and the propane attachments and the chrome and everything else. So we got her for, but it's a great deal. It's hard to sell a stove for what we're selling her for, what we paid for her, and still people think it's too much to pay, even though she's beautiful and she's new and she's so efficient. In our area, a house our size that was 2,300 square feet on 3/4 wood in the winter, yet she did it every year. And so the thing is, I would have to sell this stove before I could buy a new one. The funds need to switch. And an Airbnb, John is a little bit worried about having somebody from Airbnb come in and not know how a wood stove works. He thinks it's a lot safer to do a propane system, and just not have the liability of a wood stove in here. I have been cooking on the propane attachment, and it's so nice. It has an automatic click and start, even though it's off grid, it clicks and starts on its own. It has really, everything is just so sturdy about it. We've been making tea on it. I haven't made breakfast yet. I want to keep it a little cleaner. And even on a cool day, I don't want to be cooking inside because it does get hotter in the afternoon. But not sure what to do. If we did have a wood stove in here, I don't think we could sleep in the lofts. I think it would just get too stinking hot up there and just feel like the walls were closing in on us. The Have More Farm said at 14 below, you might want to close the doors. I missed something. The Have More Farm said propane's natural byproduct from burning is H2O water. Yes, and when we were in the little RV, we did have a lot of condensation on the windows for sure. We had to have propane on all day, every day, like we did in the RV, even though this is much better insulated than the RV was. Have a lot of problems with condensation. We probably still have to have a window open. had made it. Hey. Adventurous Aardvark said, comment from earlier. I see you managed to get out of your pajamas today. How did you know? I went into the library today. And hadn't brushed my hair. My pajamas. I do think I did eventually brush my hair before this. That I was wandering around town looking like a vagabond. I was trying to get all my stuff done. That's really weird that you would know that, though. The humble homemaker. Do you plan on staying in Oklahoma for good? I don't know. We're not there, and John is, and he says it's really humid. A lot. If I could figure out how to make the homestead work there the way it works here, and we had a good livelihood, I think I really liked. So I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Acres is taken off. The Have More Farm. Just glad you remember to wear clothes. I always wear clothes. What are you talking about? Oh. So it was more about the fact that I hadn't really brushed my hair. What? Don't break up, give it another chance. What's breaking up? Oh, are you talking about because John's in Oklahoma? Well, we're going to Oklahoma. We just don't know if we'll stay in Oklahoma. And by we, I mean like plural, like our whole family. We're not as far, I'm just finishing things up here before I go there. Is that what you're asking? That was really funny. Okay. I'm sorry that we're breaking up. I don't know. I wonder if my phone is getting too hot. Let's move it over. That was not funny. I couldn't figure. I'm like, has he not been following? Like, we're all good. We're fine. Jean Weber said, did you grow up in a homesteading family? Yes. I started my family on homesteading when I was 9. My first gift from one of my grandfathers was a rabbit and some. And I was 18 months old, and so I was doing chores when I was 18 months old. I had my first bum lamb when I was 9, and then at 10 I got my first horse, and then at 11 I got my first goat, and I paid for her myself. And at that point, I think there were 5 kids in the family, and my parents were concerned about being able to feed all of us, so they moved to a farm, and 2 more brothers were born. So my teenage and into my 20s, my parents didn't sell the farm until I was in my 30s. And so I have been on a farm, and it's lovely. Chad Bauman said, I'm confused. Is this house the storage shed house? Yes. Tim Cobb said, the way to stay warm is to be hugging your hubby. What? Okay, Tim, you're gonna have to say it again because I don't understand. That More Farm said, I had 3 quarter horses growing up. Never again. As a kid, but they're kind of expensive to feed, and you don't get any milk out of them for the most part. John, is it Jean Weber? All I want at this point is cats, dogs, and sheep. I love sheep. We would love to have sheep again. The Humble Homemaker said, I'm sad to hear that you're going to put the girls in school. Well, it kind of just comes down to a point where I have so much work to do before I can leave. With the girls in the morning in the cool hours when I should be out working. Are lonely. They're lonely and they're sad that they can't go see friends because I'm too busy working. And so if I have them in school for a little while, I like it. And I will be able to get a lot more done in a day with the girls in school than I can. And that just sounds really brutal, but I'm actually really excited to see if they like it. I'm excited to see Hare, and I'm excited to see what happens scholastically. If, you know, if happening scholastically, I can do extra school with them. And if things, you know, if it turns out things don't go well, we can just pull them out. It's just not a big deal. Sorry, my nose really itches. The Have More Farm said a lot of work and expensive, and John Kadzierski said hay burners. Yes, I would much rather go and ride somebody else's horse and let them feed them and pay them the difference. That is totally what I would rather. I thought that somebody, it looked like John had tried to text me, but I couldn't tell. Wholesome Roots. Hey, Wholesome Roots. You're doing what's best for your family. Well, I really feel strongly about it. Every time I think about, no, I shouldn't put them in school, or maybe, you know, maybe I should just go do some homeschool co-ops with them this year. Every time it just tells me no, because then you'd have to leave the homestead again. One more thing that's going to pull you away from getting this place finished, and it won't really replace them having a friendship of making friends here locally in our neighborhood. They do have friends at church, but they don't spend a huge amount of time with them. I went to public school for kindergarten, first grade, and 7th grade. And I enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed the experience of seeing that I could make friends, that people liked me. And even though I didn't stay in public school, it was just part of my life. It was a good thing. It was a good experience. Cat Lover said, you're a good mom and dad, Mr. Dirt. You will watch your kids' need for your family. Thank you. Also said, it may be a good thing for the girls to interact with others. Yes, Paige is such a little butterfly of a person. She wants to talk to everybody. She's in love with everybody. She just loves to be around people. She's never shy. And I think her little soul is just really craving a BFF right now. And I think it's okay to send her to school and let her make one. And Kai is super shy, and she doesn't want to be around people. And she's a little antisocial. And I think it would be really good to force her to go out and be around people and not always get to hide behind mama's skirts, and just let her go and her own way in life for just a little bit of time and be okay. Adventurous Aardvark said, actually, the school system plods along at Paige's natural pace. That's good, because it does take Paige all day to get her school done. Have More Farm said it will be a learning experience. Yes, I think it will be a learning experience for them to have it. Sandra Clark said, my kids went to public school, but I heavily supplemented their education at home, which I think is fantastic. I have so many books. Most of the books that are still out in the shed that I haven't pulled out yet, that I can't bear to get rid of, are my homeschool curriculum. And most of them are not actual curriculum. They're books that I found that I want the kids to read. They want them to know the information in them. And I can give that to them supplementary to what they're getting at school. Okay, John Kadzierski said, my parents would jump for joy when the school bus came for me. Well, I have to admit, this is the first time I've experienced this, that I am so excited for school to start. I look around and I'm just like, one more week. I can make it one more week. Supplies with them, which we've never done before. We've always just had a normal supply of pencils and erasers, but now they have to have this big, huge supply of school stuff that we take with them to the school, and they get to meet their classmates and their teachers, and it's very official. And we might or might not have them right on the bus. I'm not sure yet, because it's only 3/4 of a mile from our house. We can see it from our house. But this is the first time I've had that rush of like, oh my gosh, I'll get so much done when they're not here. I'll get so much done. I can get up early. I can get X amount done, and I can just stop and feed myself for lunch. And holy cow, what would it be like around all the time? But I think that their emotional needs for friends right now are kind of pulling at me a little bit, and I'm feeling some guilt about not being able to leave and take them to go do fun things right now. I think a lot of it for me then is emotional, about just really wanting to see them be happy. Let's see. All right, I think I missed something. Okay, Chi-Town. Okay, they're talking to Cat Lover. Okay. The Have More Farm said you need a tiny house and tiny library. Actually, I have figured out how to store all my books up in one of the storage lofts. I'm going to go in and build these sideways shelf bracket units that I can push books back into, and there's enough space for me to get all my books in. And I'm super excited about that, but I keep putting it off. I keep just feeling like it's a fact that when I start to feel like that, I'm just not drinking enough caffeine and I'm not eating enough chocolate, because then I just kind of stonewall and I just kind of sit here and stare at it wishing it was finished. I do need to just get that done. Is I'll go out to the storage shed and have the girls help me just get all the books into the back of the van, and then I won't have any choice but. Okay, what? Paul Wheaton said bye. Okay. That's really nice. Paul said buy a Rocket Mass Heater Workshop Jamboree ticket and mention Dirt Patch, and I will kick back 30% to Julianne. That is really sweet. There's Paul Wheaton. He's the one over at Permies.com or Rich Soil. And he's the one doing that workshop. I won't be going up for the class, but I'm hoping to go up and take a few videos so you guys can see what it's like to take a workshop up there at Paul's. I know if you guys saw Esther and Nick's video, they showed a lot of the cooking and they were really happy with it. And so I wanted to be able to go up and take a similar video and show what it's like to take a Paul that he has lined up. So Chad Bauman said, I will admit I enjoy the piece when my daughter goes to school. Don't beat yourself up about it. You know, I'm just jubilant about it. If the girls have fun, I feel like they're a safe distance from home. Our school system here is very safe. They're still in elementary school. I think I'd feel like it was junior high school, because I think junior high is very bullying in junior high. I had a great time in high school, but we did dual enrollment, so I knew all the kids in high school anyway, even without going to school there. Let's see. I need to go further down because I can't see. The only hard thing about taking a class to be in my area. He's in Montana. A lot of other workshops that go on like back east or in New Zealand or along the Oregon coast, that kind of thing. But as far as like in my area, northern, western, frigid US, Paul, guy that brings it all together for us and that understands our climate. So I think it's really, really nice to have somebody this close. Okay, let's see if I can go further down. Amber and John Homestead made it. Jill Madigan. Paul Wheaton does have amazing eyebrows. He does. He is larger than life. Let's see. Said, can you say move to Mississippi? Why would we move to Mississippi? We loved the people in Mississippi that we were staying with. Although they're, if you guys don't know Deep South Homestead, you should go check them out, because we stayed with them for 3, split up over 2 trips, and we absolutely loved them, and their channel is amazing, and they're really doing it. They really are living off their land. So Adventures Aardvark said, how many freaking Johns do we have? Don't you know how to spell your name? Oh, funny. Oh, speak of the devil, there's Deep South Homestead. Yep, there they are. So they're just harvesting their Danny corn right now, their field corn that they eat off of the whole rest of the year. Danny has some eating issues, and so what they eat, because he does not do well with GMO, and he has some problems with gluten, and he had some health scares over the last few years, and so much better when he eats from his own property. So if you want to know how to do that, you need to go check out Deep South Homestead. Said Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia are the same veggie growing wise. Well, but you guys have so many critters that like to eat everything that, ugh. You have so many critters. Let's see. Somebody lurking? Oh, was Deep South lurking and not saying anything? I actually have some Danny corn in my seed stash that I wanted to plant this year, and we just didn't get any beds made, so I didn't get it planted. I don't know how well it'll want to grow next year. Deep South Homestead said, hello, everyone. Love to have you visit again. I guess I got to get back to see what you go backtrack to see what you said. Love you. Love you too. Okay, so while Paul is still on, I'm gonna ask him some questions. So Paul Wheaton said, rocket mass heater for a tiny house. We're going to build a 4-inch system in the Love Shack, a pretty small porta cabin on skids. So Paul, is there any way you can answer some questions? Because I know that the one that I'm most concerned about is the weight, and I know that you use pea gravel in your rocket mass heater. So that you're doing like a box. I went and looked several times at the Jamboree at the Rich Soil, so the Rocket Mass Heater Jamboree at richsoil.com. Not as fluent in lingo to really understand what that means. Does it mean that with the system you're building, you're not using cob, or that you're just doing a different a different core? That's the one that last time I talked to Jocelyn about it, and we weren't sure. So anyway, the one in Paul's house, it looks like brass. The barrel that they used is absolutely beautiful and burnished, and I have never actually seen it lit, because they light it one time during the day, they let it run like an hour, and then it's not lit the rest of the time. But I've been there in really, really cold winter weather, and then I've been there in warm hot. Have we been there in the hot? I don't think we've been there when it's hot before. Oh, I think we did, because we were there in August. Last year in August we were there, and also there's no air conditioner going, and Paul's thought is that the mass from the rocket stove actually absorbs the cool at night and holds on to it, so that in the summer it holds the cool in and lets it out into the room as the day heats up, but that in the winter it absorbs the heat and then lets the heat off. It's like a heat exchange thing. Okay, Paul Wheaton said, not sure if the tiny house rocket mass heater will be a cob system or a pebble system. Okay, and John Kudzierski said vermiculite is insulative. Is that like perlite? Is that what? Just wondering. Paul Wheaton said the Fisher-Price house rocket mass heater has a stainless steel. Is it stainless steel? It just looks so. It's just stainless steel, though. Did you guys put a particular finish on it? Because I remember every time I've seen it, it's actually looked like something shiny and pretty that should be on display rather than something ugly. Yeah. So Paul says the rocket mass heater cools the house in the summer, and I know they were wondering about that with the Allerton Abbey. He's really trying hard to experiment with passive heating and cooling, using a mass to absorb heat in the winter and to absorb cold in the summer, so that it is a passive system rather than something that requires a lot of input. And hello, you made it. Okay, Paul Wheaton said, vermiculite is similar to perlite, but they're both insulative. We use perlite in some things, but avoid vermiculite. Is that because it so easily? I don't like either one of those because they get in the air. But is there, you use the pea gravel, right, Paul? So, okay, so if there was a way for me to go take the class, I would, but the problem is, again, I'm trying to get the homestead set up, and I've got kids that I wouldn't want to take to something like that. It's too long to be gone, too far away, especially with John in Oklahoma. Otherwise, I would go take the class because I still want to put one in. Paul Wheaton said, if we have a lot of guests over, the mass absorbs the heat so that the house stays comfortable, and then we don't need to burn wood the next day, which, can you imagine? So Paul is not like Oregon or Georgia or something. He is in the mountains of Montana. It gets freaking cold there for really, really long periods of time. So again, that's why so many people up here are looking into the rocket mass heaters, because they want to conserve their wood. It costs money to go out and get your wood. To store it, you have to have something to put over your wood so that it's not getting wet. Whereas with the rocket mass heaters, you're burning twigs instead of logs. Paul, when you said that you burned like 2/3 of a cord of wood this last year, was that right? I think that's what Jocelyn told me.
Go over Gary's.
Do you have an invitation?
He's working on it. I just heard the thumping.
Okay, but you have to go together, okay. And if they say that they're tired of you, you have to come home, and you're okay. To stay off the road, okay? Okay. Lori Family Homestead said, we understand the mass issue. Our driveway and concrete house was 100 degrees at 11 p.m. in Florida. Exactly. Paul Wheaton said, okay, Kaya, too noisy. What, honey? Are you going over to Gary's? Paige can't go over by herself. Did she just head off by herself?
No, she's going.
You better go with her then. You guys can't go separate. Sorry about that. Okay, Paul Wheaton said, we heated this 3-bedroom home with 0.6 cords of wood last winter, lowest temperature of 66 degrees, and that's in the house. That's not the outside temperature. That's the temperature inside the house. And they are in a manufactured home. They're not in this like super insulated home. It's a manufactured home. So again, here's Erica and Ernie's book. Is the Rocket Mass Heater Builder's Guide, and it allows you to put it together in a way, because Paul does have some stoves up there at the Wheaton Labs that don't work right because they were built by people who were just coming in and goofing off, and they don't draw right. If you don't do it a specific way, if you're not careful with your measurements, it will smoke and it won't be efficient. There is a science to it, and that's part of what they're teaching at the class, is the science of getting it right, of getting the measurements right, of doing it safely. And experimentation with them now. They have multiple buildings with rocket mass heaters in them, or just rocket stoves in them, and they've been playing with the design for years now. Now they have the ones that they're like, okay, this is how you do it, and if you don't want to use cob and you don't want it to be heavy, you do it this way. And if you don't have a solid foundation and you're not using concrete under your home, you have to do it this way. If you don't have footings, you do it this way. So that's exciting. Mr. Dirt said, lucky neighbors, they might be getting their fill the girls' day. Yes, last time I called over, they were watching The Lone Ranger with Gary and Julianne. Jean Weber said, is there a DVD? They do have a set of DVDs about the rocket mass heaters, soil.com. So make sure to go over and check it out. They do have a DVD set, and it walks you through everything and teaches you why the J tube works, and so that it'll have a good draw. Paul Wheaton says, we call this house the Fisher Price house. Yes, because he has all these beautiful structures that are very lovely, but Paul has to be down next to the Wi-Fi so that he can manage his forums. So they have to stay closer to civilization and aren't able to be up on the lab the way that other people are able to be. Adventurous Aardvark said, how was John's first day of school? He did not call me crying. He sounded pretty excited, except for the fact that there was a bunch of high school kids in the classes, and I think he felt like the grandpa man. Let's see. There we go. Okay, Paul Wheaton said, we have 8 DVDs about rocket mass heaters. If you wanted to put the link up for those, Paul, I think it's at Rich Soil. I could look it up real quick. I hope it doesn't bog down my if I open up too many tabs when I'm in a live show, it kind of bogs things down. So if you go to richsoil.com, the Jamboree itself, the Rocket Mass Heater Workshop Jamboree, is on the front page right now. Let's see. Or is it a Permies? Do I have it wrong? Oh, there it is. Better Wood Heat DIY Rocket Mass Heater video. So it's right there on the front page over at richsoils.com. So that'd be a good place to go. Okay, somebody said something about lava rock. Okay, Paul Wheaton said the main Cobb style rocket mass heater in Erica's book is in DVD 1 of the new DVDs. So if you're better with written word, you go get Erica's book. If you're better with the visual of seeing it on a video, go get the DVDs over at richswell.com. Mr. Dirt said, John's exhausted but excited. If I can only stare at a computer for 8 hours, I'll be set. Paul Wheaton said, lava rock is pretty light. I would rather use something with more mass. Because Colleen Gottfried asked, what about using lava rock with pea gravel? Okay. So John Kidzerski said, floor load is the main issue here. You can do a rocket stove and exhaust duct. Just don't put the heavy cob on it until you get your floor beefed up. See, and that's the thing. I've seen videos of people doing rocket mass heaters, and it seems like they're always doing it like on an earthen floor or on like concrete or something like that. And unless you do the new plans, again, what they're doing in this class is to show how to do the welding, how to use the bricks, medium to make your rocket stove. I am not well versed in those things at all, and I don't want to burn my house down. And so again, a class, even reading this book, I still feel like seeing it in person and playing with it with your own hands, so that you're not burning your house down. Okay. Said, make Paul a mod so he can put the addresses up. Well, he's got the address up right here. I'll stay afterwards. I'll just have to put him up after the show. Holstermus is going to go do a barn check. Alrighty. Good luck with your babies. Lover said, is a rocket heater a cob heater? They're not the same thing. The rocket heater is one, they have this J shape in them that sucks oxygen in through the wood, and then it gets really hot in the top of a barrel, like a 50-gallon barrel. It cascades down. There's a science to it, and there's like masonry heaters and other type of heaters, but this one in particular, almost zero emissions. You don't get a lot of smoke coming out of it. Full combustion, and so it's very scientific, but it is very something everybody could build themselves. But if you want one that really works, you want to make sure that you understand the science behind it. Paul Wheaton said, I think the mast will sit right over one of the skids, so weight is not that much of an issue, really. Oh, you are funny, Aardvark. So that's where we are. I've always been fascinated by them because the idea of we store 2 years worth of wood in our woodshed, and we had chimney fires the last 2 years because our wood was either a little bit too green or it got wet when it was being pulled in out of the shed. But also our draft wasn't long enough with our chimney. And so cleaning that chimney every 6 weeks. And it was a lot of maintenance. So the idea of having a stove that has an easy clean out door, something that doesn't put off a lot of smoke, something where I only have to burn it for a couple hours a day, and then it will keep putting off heat for the next 24 hours. As someone who's used a wood stove almost my whole life, the thought of having something that low maintenance that I could build myself is extremely attractive to me. Especially in a tiny house, because if I light my Elmira up, I'm going to have to put in a log and a half to get the coals going, to hold it. The only time I can use tiny logs on it is if I'm cooking, because I'm there to maintain it the whole time. If I want it to keep us warm at night, I have to put a log and a half in and make it smolder. Smolders, we have all this nasty smoke that's going over to the neighbors. We have a higher chance of a chimney fire later. And so as much as I love my wood burning stove, I recognize that better option out there, one even that I could have the experience of building it myself, then it makes me more self-reliant. One thing, it teaches me these amazing skills of how to build it. But the other thing is that if we ever did have a time in the world where getting fuel was an issue, if you couldn't get propane, if you couldn't get coal, if you couldn't get very much firewood, if I could heat my home, my standard sized home, if I could heat that baby for a cord of wood a year, then it means that I could put my hard-earned money to something else rather than taking my truck up into the woods and having to bring down 6 cord of wood for a year. If I had an inefficient stove, this one's pretty efficient. The stove that we had in our basement, it took us 10 cord of wood for like 4 months of heating. It was horrible and it was so expensive. This one, it will do 3 cord of wood for the winter, for the full winter, so that's better. But if I could get that down to 3/4 of a cord of wood, or for this place, I could probably, do like 1/3 of a cord of wood in this place. And so maybe I could afford to buy my wood instead of having to go up into the woods and cut it myself. Instead of having to own a chainsaw, I could just split wood that somebody else brings to me because I'd only need to buy 1/2 cord of wood. These are the things that I find so attractive about a rocket mass heater, is that I love to be self-reliant. I love to spend money on the things I care about. I want to spend money on good food. I want to spend money on going on trips to go see friends so I can film them. I want to spend money on what I consider the good things in life. I don't want to spend money to pay for propane from somebody. I don't want to spend money to pay for electricity from somebody. I want to be skillful, and I want to be efficient. And so what I see in a rocket mass heater in here would be, dang, I could burn for an hour and then it would keep us warm. And instead of it being too intense of a heat, I could let it warm up and then not put any more wood in, but that mass would keep my house warm for the rest of the day without having those huge fluctuations of, oh, I just put another log in and now it's going to burn me out of the cabin. A wood stove in here just doesn't make any sense to me because of how hot it gets up there and how tiny my footprint is. Paul Wheaton said, this event is the sort of event that people will buy airfare for from overseas. Top 6 innovators from all over the world teaching 17 workshops. So I guess, yeah, okay, Amber and John said, my friend Demi Jones' husband improperly installed their wood stove in their mobile home and they all burned up in the home. I was devastated losing my friends like that. Yeah, I think that we always had a smoke detector and everything in our home, and we burned wood. We did not use other sources of heat. And stove, we really loved it, but it was a pain in the butt if we didn't have bone dry wood, and we were always nervous to leave the house if we had any coals left in the stove even. And so the way that the rocket mass heater is, you start a little fire, you sit and stay in the house while it's burning, and then the fire goes out. The fire is gone. No more fire, no spark. And it's the mass where all that heat was, that the heat radiated into. It's the mass that keeps you warm, not the fire. How amazing is that? No more burning your house down. Let's see. Yeah, it's important to install them properly. Paul said, rocket mass heater heats with 1/10 the wood, therefore 10 times safer. Well, and again, I know that Paul lit the stove, and I know that Esther and Nick from Fauchematic, they lit their stove, but you never actually saw it going because they would light it, it would go for a while, and then they wouldn't have to have it on anymore. It was the mass that heated things, which, why not? Kidzerski said, I find the surface temps of my rocket mass heater to be much safer compared to a wood stove. Exactly. The mass itself gets warm, but it doesn't catch on fire hot. It's with the wood stove, you can't set anything on it because it will ignite, whereas with the rocket mass heater, the barrel gets hot. The barrel will get hot, but it's up off the ground away from walking space. And so again, very scientific the way that it works. Yeah, Paul Wheaton said rocket mass heater fire is very tiny and you burn infrequently. Yeah, as you feel the room start to cool down, that's when you relight the fire. You relight the fire, you let it go until you feel that the mass is hot again, and then you let the fire go out. Let's see. Did I miss anything? John Weber said, does the heat spread evenly through the house? Here's the thing is, if you don't have barriers for it, then you'll have the furthest away from the mass will be your cooler spot, and those closest to the mass will be your warmest spot. And if you have rooms off, they're not going to be as warm as the ones where the rooms are open. So it's just like any other heat source, like a wood stove. If you have fans going, like if you've seen those little fans that have the little blade on it, you set it on a hot spot and it blows the air through the house. We always had a fan to the side of or on top of our wood burning stove, and it moved the air through the house. So I think those fans, engine that they run on, but a fan is nice. But the way that a stove works is it puts out intense heat while it's burning, whereas the rocket mass heater, what happens is that the heat seeps into the mass and then lets it off slowly throughout the day. It's not putting off intense heat that a stove does. It percolates out into the room. Let's see. Okay, Bert Skelton said, do you have enough floor space to build the bench mass? We do. We have enough space to build a very small, but the that Paul is putting it in is 7 by 11. That's what they're putting it into. And we're quite a bit larger than that. And so if they can put it in a 7 by 11, then we would be just fine here. And theirs is on skids the same way that ours is on skids. So it should translate very well. Let's see. I think I missed some comments. Cat Lover said, and that is what Fouch has, right? The Fouch-O-Matic or Fouch family off-grid now. They have a rocket mass heater, and they did it with Cobb. Absolutely raved over it, thought it was amazing. Enough floor space. I wouldn't want it to be enormous, an enormous long bench, even though we could. We do have enough space to do that. I wouldn't want it to be big. If you did a normal size one in a 7 by 11 shack, it would take up the whole thing. Paul Wheaton said, more luxuriant, wake up to warm house even though the fire has been out for 24 hours. And again, that is not a super insulated house that they're in. It's a called mobile home. The Have More Farm said, wouldn't a soapstone heater do the same thing? I think it's about the burning technology. It's a clean, a very, very clean heat. I'm not real familiar. I know that with the soapstone heater, you have the same gentle heat that comes off, but the thing about the J design in your rocket mass heaters in the stove part itself is that it fully combusts. You don't have smoke going out that chimney, and it's cooled by the time it does go out the chimney. I think it's generally meant to be at about 150 degrees, I think is what it's supposed to be. The exhaust doesn't have all that ash in it. It gets collected inside the exhaust spot that you take the ashes out later. Let's see. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. You guys might have to ask me again. Colleen Godfrey, did you say that you have a rocket mass heater? Oh goodness, Mr. Dirt, you're so funny. Okay, so if you guys want to ask me any more questions, go ahead. I think Paul may have skipped out for the night. Everybody's getting silly talking about Nuclear power? Okay, so Paul said, brand new video, what is a rocket mass heater on YouTube? So look up Paul Wheaton rocket mass heater. There is the link. I will need to take that and put it into the, I'll go put it in the cards a little bit later. Yeah. What is a rocket mass heater? So you guys can go look that up and it will explain, because how it works, it suddenly makes sense. It's like, oh, that's how it doesn't, and that's why it's safe, and that's why you don't do it this way, that's why you do it this way. They have other explanations like boom squish, which is how you heat water with a rocket mass heater so that you don't have explosions, and that kind of thing. So it is good to know the technical details from people who've been experimenting with it long enough to have made all the mistakes and now know why you do it a certain way. So Paul said, I made that video a couple days ago with help from Dan Oman. Yeah. So it looks like Colleen Godfrey, no looking to build. So Colleen, you're looking to do a rocket mass heater too? Said the video is just 2 minutes long. Yankee Force said it's been a cold summer here in South Carolina, 90s, 110 this time of year. Have a feeling it will be a cold winter. Colleen Godfrey said the video set was a little confusing. Which video set is that, Colleen? Okay, Claire Christian said, fineth, tiny house in Rocky Mountains finds she must crack open her sleeping loft with only a wee wood stove burning, 7-inch wood splints. Update. So that might be a good one to look into. John Kidzerski said, great video, Paul. Love your animations. Paul always does have good animations. So for those of you who are really serious about this, I don't feel comfortable with building a rocket mass heater until I've seen it done in real life and participated in it. So I'm not building one this year. I'd like to take one of Paul's courses, but I have kids. John is in Oklahoma. So if I do go up, I'll go up and do a tiny little film, like be there for a couple hours and then come home. But for those of you who do honestly want to do this kind of thing, he has some amazing teachers coming up. If you'd like to understand why, see you, Paul. If you'd like to understand why rocket mass heaters, you could go listen to the podcast that Paul has on them and on other topics. So again, if all you can do is get the book, Erica and Ernie Weisner, The Rocket Mass Heater Builder's Guide. And if you guys have seen all the cob places that I have been visiting lately, here is a good book if you're interested in building just with cob. And it's called The Cobbers Companion, How to Build Your Own Earthen Home by Michael G. Smith. And it's really good. It's kind of written almost for children, the way that they have all the pictures and they keep it really, really simple. So it's a really, really good book if you're somebody who doesn't like technical jargon. Not another book. Sorry. I am all about the books. I have so many books left out in storage and I need to get them here ASAP. And then the last book, if you're really wondering about why transition your life to being more independent, how will it benefit your family? Favorite books. It's What Falls from the Sky. And the other lady I've been talking about a lot is Esther Emery. And she wrote this book talking about their transition from living a very fast-paced executive type lifestyle to where they are now in the mountains of Idaho. And I think she really spells it out really well, the difference between and the sacrifices you make to not live in the rat race. Writing another memoir. So for me, this is kind of one of those books that ties it all together about why I live the way that I live. And I already lived that way before I read the book, but when I read her book, it really resonated with me as to what the purpose. Okay, Eric Harrison said, RAM, what I have. I don't know what that is. Holmes said, duh, I forgot about tonight's broadcast, but I'm here now. Yay! That is good. Welcome, welcome. So we have been on for an hour now. I can't really think of any other questions. Oh, I did finally see the property that we'll be heading to in Tulsa. That was super fun. John went out and took a video for me. And he has sent me a couple videos that I will be using probably this week sometime, trying to get them edited so you guys can see the new homestead that we're heading to. I went to the vet yesterday to start getting things in line to be able to get their papers to be able to take them across the state borders. So that is well on its way. And now I don't think it's like a sit and wait type of a game. It's more of a when the girls get in school, hopefully I can really kick it into gear and just get everything finished. Make our way to Oklahoma. Claire Christian said, my little homestead channel in California, Arizona desert built a rocket mass heater into one of their Cobb homestead units, dragon rocket stove, step by step. Yes, they did. And I saw it and it was so cool. It looks like gremlin creature. I wish I could, there's a movie that has a dragon in it like that. I wish I could think of what it was. Pretty cool. The Have More Farm says, so do you think you can grow things there? I don't know. That's kind of scary for me. I know what critters like to eat my garden here, and I know how to protect my garden from it. I have no idea about the critters there. I have no idea about what soil amendments to add. I know that it's harder to grow squash there. My sister tried to grow squash in Mississippi, and the squash borers or whatever killed all of them. Here it's super easy to grow just about everything except cabbage. The cabbage moths like them. But pretty much we don't, I guess we can have some soil nematodes sometimes that like to go after the carrots. Everything is really pretty manageable. Adventurous Aardvark said, John went out to the property. Yes, he did. And he did take a video. And it looks very green and beautiful. It looks pretty amazing. What I'm really wondering is if the property owner there, if he mows his lawn, because the grass looks really, really short. I would hope that that lawn gets mowed. Otherwise, really, really short. And I'm wondering how much hay I'll have to be bringing in. Just, not that that's a bad thing. But I remember the same thing in their grass was really, really short. Here, if I water my grass, it'll go up over the top of my shoulders. So it's really interesting to see different states and different climates and how things grow. I feel a little bit of trepidation because of the length of the grass. Isn't that the weirdest thing to be concerned about? Bert Skelton said, the rocket mass heater burn drives off the volatile gases that are reignited in the rocket chimney. Then the hot gas is circulated through the cob mass for storage, then out the chimney cooler. Thank you. Very good definition, Bert. You won't be using the same methods. Yes, I won't be using the same methods, and I feel very uneducated about it. I know that dirt is dirt, but climate is not, climate's not the same. That I would imagine that if they have clay, they're acidic, where we're alkaline, which is why I don't grow in the soil, because we're highly alkaline. The Have More Farm said, I think you'll do okay. After all that questioning, you think I'll do okay, huh? Amber and John Homestead said, oh, Mrs. Dirt, I tried free gluten-free foods. I kind of like some of it. Some of it can be pretty good. Cat Lover said, are you moving to Mississippi? No. Oklahoma for a year and a half. Hopefully we'll go visit Mississippi soon. Park said that he has lawnmowers in Oklahoma. Yes, we have lawnmowers in Idaho too, but I like to have my goats eat it. So I'm just curious. I'm curious, in Oklahoma, how tall does the grass grow if you don't use a lawnmower? In Oklahoma, how tall will the grass grow if you don't use a lawnmower? Michael Thompson said, moving to Tulsa, you will love it here. I hope to have the opportunity to meet you guys. That would be super fun. It allows me to be more central so that I can go visit everybody that we didn't get to visit on our main trip, or let them come visit us. We did still want to go northeast and go to New England and all that kind of thing, but maybe that won't happen. I would really like to see everybody that we had planned to come see, but again, it just might not happen. Oh, thanks, John. Wow, and you are all working so hard on that tiny house. The Have More Farm said, as long as you don't overthink it and relax, you'll be okay. Okay, Adventures Aardvark says it'll grow 6 feet. Really? No over-exaggeration there? Okay, if it's 6 feet, I won't worry about it. But I remember it boggling my mind in Florida that the grass, like, all everywhere, even though they had all the rain. Our email address is dirtpatcheaven@gmail.com, and our mailing address is Dirtpatcheaven, P.O. Box 431, Rigby, Idaho 83442. So, okay, I guess I'm sure some of you need to go spend time with your family tonight. I feel bad for holding you. Our big project right now, while I'm wishing I had a rocket mass heater, is an indoor shower because it's been cold at night. And so I have a hula hoop, a shower curtain. I feel like I should be saying I need a young priest, an old priest, and a bottle of ketchup. But anyway, I'm building the indoor shower. We tried it the other night just sitting in a tub, and we ended up getting water all over the floor, and it got under the stove. And so the pitting in the under the stove got a little bit worse. And so no more of that. We need a shower curtain and a hula hoop beam. And we're going to put the shower curtain inside the big tub that I have so we can stand in it, but the shower curtain will hold the water in. So we'll see if that works. Dirt said, I think that's not hyperbole. It's really green here. Well, I know it's green, but I want to know how tall the grass gets. 6 feet would be awesome. Aisha Stelling said, should come to Wisconsin sometime. I would love to meet. That would be awesome. That would be absolutely awesome if we made it up there. Amber and John Homestead said, gluten-free spaghetti noodles tasted better than I thought it would. That's awesome. Mix made it in. How are you? Bird Scout said it was the tall prairie grass before the settlers. That's awesome. Amber and John Homestead said, it's okay, Mrs. Dirt. I missed you guys very much. We barely missed Amber and John. Like, we drove in and they'd had to drive out for an emergency or something. And we had a bit of a hard time on the road having a set schedule because of weather. So we missed a lot of people that we really wish we could have gone and seen. Sorry, I'll stop bouncing. So anyway, there is the rocket mass heater that I think even just going and reading the little page that they have, it would at least tell you who to go investigate and go see if they have other videos. All the names there are pretty big names in rocket mass heaters, and so I would highly recommend go check out the page rich.com and give yourself a free education there. Deantown, Missouri, the grass gets about 3 feet tall. That's why me and my neighbors both have goats to trim the grass and fertilize. Visitor said she can only hold still for so long. It's so true. I'm not knitting. So seeing the property out there in Tulsa, what I really think would work still is grazing stakes. The reason being is that if I put all the goats out in that space and I put up a fence, then they're going to eat all the grass down and it won't stay as healthy. Whereas if I can keep them spot to spot to spot, it gives the grass a rest. It doesn't get too much manure. It doesn't get grazed down too quickly. And it gives me more control over where the goats are. So maybe a perimeter fence to keep dogs out. But I think, again, I would probably just want to put the goats on grazing stakes. It just is what seems to work really well. The Have More Farm said she starts to twitch if she doesn't pet a goat or something. So true. Rick and Alicia Stelling said, you could stop here if you're going through. We have a 40-acre farm, but we don't have animals yet. They are in the plans. How exciting. Get up the interview I did with Lumna Acres, because that's exactly what we talked about, is about the order of operation when you get onto a new homestead and doing things the right way. And it's great to have property, but it is nice to just slow down and not get animals before you're ready. Michael R. said, have you looked at Japanese tubs? They are smaller. I haven't. That is a good idea. My dad was in Japan for a while and he loved Japan. And I hear anyway, yeah, I will go look that up. Thank you, Michael. Jill Madigan said, you would be welcome in Milwaukee, Wisconsin too. Where are you, Rick and Alicia? Spooner, Wisconsin. So Cat Lover is taking off. Thank you, Cat Lover. The Have More Farm said that's why they wrote a book entitled The Have More Farm. Yes, good book. Go check it out. Okay, I need to go retrieve my children before they absolutely wear out their welcome at the neighbors. It has been lovely to visit with you all. Make sure to go check out richsoil.com and permies.com for all things permaculture. And I'm going to sign off before it gets dark so I can get those little kids bathed. And maybe we'll sit and read stories. And if you guys want to sit here and visit for a little longer, go ahead. And I will talk to you later.